Hi, I'm Barbara O'Brien. I'm an animal trainer and photographer, and I'd like to welcome you to the Empathetic Trainer. This is Barbara O'Brien, and you're listening to the Empathetic Trainer podcast. Today's guest is Mikel Delgado. She's a certified applied animal behaviorist and certified cat behavior consultant. She co-founded a cat consulting business called Feline Minds, and her new book, Play With Your Cat, is available March 5th, 2024. She also has a blog called What Your Cat Wants, and she lives with 3 rescue cats named Coriander, Ruby, and Professor Scribbles. So we're pretty excited to have you here, Mikel, and I love the names of your cats.
Thank you.
I think we should start out with Professor Scribbles because we need to know how did he get his name.
Well, actually, Professor Scribbles is a she. So all of my cats are sisters. And, you know, it's kind of funny. I had a client, a cat behavior client, who had a cat named Scribble. And I just loved the name. And after I met with that client, I talked to my boyfriend and I was like, what do you think about the cat named Scribble? And he's like, I love it. And so we just always had it in the back of our head. We had 2 cats at the time. And we had it in the back of our head that when we had a future cat, there would be a cat named Scribble or some variation of Scribble. And we kind of settled on, I like cats to have a job. So my cat Coriander, she's actually a Supreme Court Justice. So her full name is Justice Coriander Moonbeam. And Ruby is a train conductor. So that's her job. And then Scribbles, I think part of it was also because I got a PhD, but did not get a job as a professor. So I thought someone in the house should be a professor. So Scribbles got the job of being the professor in the house.
A little vicarious.
That's how they got their
right?
names. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was like my failed career turned into a job for her. So, but her PhD is in scribbling, so it's not very useful.
Well, for a cat, though, it's pretty impressive. I think naming cats, I mean, just to really get on the subject of naming cats, I think is really important. And you may agree that we give them names that we have affection for. So like with all my cats over the years, and I have we have cats. And so the girls have had glamour names like Evelyn and Marilyn and, Louisa, beautiful 1930s, 40s actresses, you know.
Nice.
And for some reason, the boy cats, especially years ago when my children were young, they're all out of the house, but whatever they were studying in history, that's what the cats were named, So we had a Churchill and we had a Roosevelt and we had, some, and when John Adams was out, that was popular. We had, some cats named for that. Eliza,
That's fun.
Well,
yeah,
things like that. So, but having names you like that you feel good saying, that you feel good about instead of saying dumb cat, or something.
Well, yeah, when I used to work in an animal shelter, I do remember, so part of my job was I worked in a private shelter, and every day we would go to the public shelter, which was San Francisco Animal Care and Control, and pull cats from that shelter to be put up for adoption. And I'll never forget this one cat. Her name was PETA, which I believe was short for pain in the ass. And
yeah, I knew a dog named that once.
It kind of broke my heart a little bit. Like, I agree with you that, these are names, they're terms of endearment. And of course, most of us have like 1,000 nicknames for our cats that we use anyway. But right. I do feel like you should give your cats a cute name or a cool name, something that respects them and doesn't cause derision or even, problems for like your veterinarian to call their name in the lobby, right, when you're at the clinic. So
I hadn't even thought of that.
I do find it funny though when people give their cats very human names, like kind of cats named, well, my friend, her cat's name is Josh, and I find that to be a very funny name. But given that you mentioned that you've given your cat some names after people, I tend to lean towards the more like, I don't know, cutesy, I guess, like like Professor Scribbles, right? It's kind of silly, but
no, I think that's wonderful because like we have George, what his name is King George, so
yes, good. He's got a job too.
Yeah, so they're always like that. But I think we're on the same path, same mindset that they should have some good feeling when we say the name.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the same is true when we talk about animals in general, right? Like words matter. This was, again, something that came up all the time in the animal shelter is that when we were writing plans for specific animals, whether it was a veterinarian writing notes or us writing behavior notes about the cat that we didn't use terms like mean or jerk when we were talking about the animals, even if they were maybe not what we would consider friendly, right? So it was always really important, rather than using labels, to describe the behaviors that we're observing. So this cat is hiding. This cat may bite or scratch if you approach too quickly, instead of saying this cat is a jerk, because those labels do color how we work with that animal, or how we perceive them, or even, how we perceive their behavior. When I work with clients, it is something that I really have to get them to describe the problem in terms that are really about the behavior and not their interpretation of the behavior or their emotional response to the behavior, because it really does make it more difficult to, I think, understand the pet's perspective if you're just seeing them as a jerk or as jealous or trying to get revenge or whatever.
In the horse world, there is a shift in the horse world, and I think the dog world too, to do the same sort of things, because they'd be like, oh, this horse doesn't respect me, or he's stubborn, or he's bad, or he's being a jerk. Yeah. And that colors, like you said, our perception. And then from what I've learned from some other guests we've had that are work with energies or talk about energies, it gives your energy is in your words. Like you said, words have meaning. And that meaning is our energy. Like when we say the words, how we feel about it, and the animals can feel that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know why humans need respect so much from everyone that we deal with. I don't need my cats to respect me. I need my cats to be happy.
It's more of a horse thing, but yeah, for sure.
No, but I hear it I hear it all the time from cat owners too. Yes, dog owners, cat owners. There is really this idea that if we're in charge, if we're the parent or the boss, that somehow our pets should respect us. And I find that very strange. That's not the mindset I have about animals and or even human relationships, I guess.
No, right. Yeah.
That's not my go-to, but humans do tend to be a little obsessed with hierarchies and who's in charge. And
well, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Well, there we go. We've got the cat naming thing done. Give your cat a good name. Fair enough. All right.
Please.
Well, very good. So, okay. Well, Michael, I'm really curious. How did you know you were going to grow up and, be a cat lady in this sense, where you were able to help other cat people? I mean, what was your path? Because, I knew I was going to live on a farm and have animals. I just didn't know I was going to be an animal actor trainer and a photographer. I just knew it was going to be something with animals. I just got real lucky. How did it start for you? What was the beginning of all this?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that I was one of those people that had a clear path from childhood, but I definitely did not. I have always loved cats and had cats, or family members have had cats throughout my life, but definitely was not one of those people who thought, oh, I'm going to be a veterinarian, or I'm going to work in a zoo, or anything like that. I mean, I was pretty aimless as a kid, and then I got into punk rock and actually, like I said, had cats, but they were my companions and not my career. And I actually dropped out of college when I was 21 because I wanted to move to California and be in a punk band. And that's basically what I did.
Where are you from originally then, if you moved to California?
Yeah. I grew up in Maine.
Maine. Oh, you moved like as far as you could possibly go. One ocean to another.
Country. Yes.
And you're pretty young at this point.
I was young. Yeah, I was 21. So, I mean, I moved out of my mom's house when I was 17. So I was kind of an early, this was back when you could actually afford to leave your parents' home when you were young. And I was a pretty independent kid. So California was where I wanted to be. I wanted to live in the Bay Area. There was a really thriving punk scene and a lot of political activism that I wanted to be a part of. So I moved to California. I started working at a natural foods cooperative, which was a non-hierarchical work structure. There were no managers. It was all democratically run. And that was definitely a really formative place to work for a long period of time. And during that time, I was also volunteering in some collectively run punk spaces and started a band. And it wasn't until one of my cats passed away that was kind of where my life headed in a different direction. And that was because I still had another cat. So my cat who passed away, his name was Kiddums. And I still had a cat named Jesus. He was a great little cat. But when Kiddums passed away, a friend of mine had recently started volunteering at the local animal shelter.
Okay.
And my friend Casey, and he was like, I think it would really help you get through your grief to volunteer at the shelter. So he wanted me to hang out at the shelter with him because he was having fun. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So I started volunteering at the animal shelter. This was the San Francisco SPCA.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much as soon as I got there, I noticed that they had this special ward of cats that were off limits to most volunteers. It was their behavior ward. And these were cats who needed special basically support to cope with the stress of being in a shelter. They needed specially trained volunteers. And I was like, oh, I want to work with those cats. Like, I was like, how do I get to do that? And so I started volunteering in their behavior program. And so this was pretty amazing at the time because this was in 2000. So we're talking almost 24 years ago.
Yeah.
That this shelter had a whole department devoted to cat behavior.
Yeah. We stop you right there because most shelters, I mean, a lot of shelters, especially back then, okay, out of necessity, if a cat was difficult, that was the end of the cat.
Sure.
I mean, it had to be at that time. I think it's getting better, but right. So that was way ahead of its time where they would actually try to help these cats so they could get adopted. Is that right?
Yeah. And even just having staff on hand to do the work to help these cats and also help cat owners. So I began volunteering with this program, and basically I volunteered there so much that when one of the staff in the behavior department was going on maternity leave, they were like, oh, do you want a job? And I was like, yeah.
Like me? Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that was kind of, that was it. I started working in their cat behavior program and learning a lot about cats, learning a lot about behavior, helping a lot of cat owners. So we would do matchmaking in the shelter. So if someone came in and they were looking for help picking a cat, we would help them. But we also had a behavior hotline. So anybody in the world could call this free hotline if they had behavior questions.
Wow.
So I got a lot of my training on that hotline, and we would get easily over 100 calls a month.
Oh, sure.
And, from people all over the world with behavior problems ranging from my cat's peeing on my bed to my cat's biting my husband to we're having a baby and our cat's freaking out, all kinds of the whole gamut of behavior things. And so I got a lot of training on the job. And basically when my coworkers' maternity leave was over, they decided to keep me. So I ended up working at the shelter for almost 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
When I left, the person who went on maternity leave was Delara Perry. She is now my business partner at Feline Mind. So we both left the shelter around the same time to start our business. And the point of that was really to kind of be able to devote more time to people who had behavior problems. So operating a hotline, you don't have a lot of time to give people. It was really like, here's some quick tips and here's some handouts and,
right.
That's hopefully this helps.
So you're going to be able to devote more to helping.
So we started doing, home visits and spending more time with our clients, giving them, much more personalized behavior modification plans so that they could solve behavior problems and hopefully keep cats in the home, because that's really the whole point of why we do behavior. Well, it's not just to keep the cat in the home. It's a big part of it, especially if you come from a shelter background, is just like, we got to keep these cats in the home. We don't want them to end up in the shelter. But a lot of it is preserving the human-animal bond. And then a huge part of it is also making sure that cats have good welfare. Because I think a lot of companion animals may be loved. They may have basic care, but they don't have great welfare. Their lives are missing a lot of the things that they need. And so this is also an opportunity to educate cat owners about how to make their cats happy, or how to give them the things that they need to be both a good companion animal with good behavior, but also make sure they're a happy companion animal.
Oh, absolutely. And what a wonderful thing then. Do you feel that this is, so you go back a little bit in time too as well? Because I remember back, it was like, people threw their cats outside,
Sure.
And that's fine if you have an outside, safety, whatever. I mean, that can be done safely if you have the setup and whatever. But it was like, nighttime, throw the cat out. Now where I live, coyotes would eat them. So
and where I live
if I
too,
wanted to, it wouldn't be very smart. But do you think it's changed? What I'm trying to say, I guess my question is, do you think that people are becoming more aware of how a cat might feel, like caring more about how to make things nice for their cats? Do you think people are more aware? I know they are more aware with horses. That's a growing trend. Yes. I know they're certainly getting more aware with dogs. That's been a growing trend. So I think it's getting better for animals, but boy, there's still a lot for all of us to learn, right?
Yes, absolutely. No, I do think that there have been improvements. Certainly cats, social media really changed the public profile of cats, right? Now, cat videos became the thing.
Oh yeah.
For good and bad. Sometimes those videos are not a positive thing for cats, but certainly
you can tell the stress. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it did elevate cats as a companion animal. And I do think that I don't like to sound like an old person or anything, but I do think the younger generations are more thoughtful in their pet parenting and more open to maybe that less of that we were talking about earlier, like the need for respect and that kind of hierarchical approach, and maybe more compassionate. And I think there's probably different reasons for that, but I do think that there's movement in the right direction. We still have a lot of challenges, and certainly, cats populate very quickly. We still have an overpopulation issue. We still have a lot of issues with, feral cats and the debate over birds and cats being outside. But I think that there is more interest. Certainly my business has increased. There's lots more people doing behavior consulting. When I started, if I told people what I did for a living, they were very confused. And it was probably, I don't remember when the show My Cat from Hell came out. That was a TV show that was, Jackson Galaxy's show about behavior consulting. And then suddenly people were like, oh, this is a thing. Like, I can hire someone to help me with my cat. And so that's actually, in a lot of ways, really beneficial to the field because it did increase demand for the service.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So I think I think people don't feel as weird about hiring someone to help them with their cat as maybe they did when I started. And they seem very embarrassed and confused.
Yeah. No, I get it. When I explained that I train cats, well, and we're not even training cats, to be on set, to be animal actors. Yeah. We're shaping behaviors and rewarding behaviors and being happy about it, because I can't use them if they're not happy.
Yeah.
So it's like I've chosen cats that really enjoy this work, and I keep them their whole lives, because gosh, our last cat, the last cat we had to put down was 19, because finally after everything, her kidneys, Evelyn, slept on my head every night, and that was only been a couple months, so you understand that. But I mean, I keep them their whole lives, and so I choose them really carefully. But so when I say to people I train cats, they're like, that's not possible. And I'm like, having a nice cat helps, but you can help encourage behaviors that you're looking for. And I want to I went to your website and your blog, and I want everyone the links will be in the show notes and everything like that. But she's got Mikel has a wonderful blog, and Mikel's very big on Instagram, which is where I found you. So that was fun.
Nice. Excellent.
And I went to one of your most recent ones. You talk about your multiple cats. And guilty, multiple cat household here. Sometimes you're opening yourself up for behavior problems because cats a resource they have, like, they can guard resources, or one will be at the top of the stairs staring at the one at the bottom of the stairs, and the one at the bottom of the stairs can't get up to the litter box or whatever. So you need to have enough litter boxes, enough places to eat, enough places. But I had not thought of this, and I've been doing this a while, and I was really surprised and happy to see this. One of your recent blogs or posts talks about having enough spaces in your bedroom for the cats to sleep comfortably all in the same room, because as a rule, they want to be with you. But as a rule, not all of them are going to get along. Say you have 4 of them. Okay. Don't be shocked, people. Some people have 4 or 5 or 10. Okay.
It's true. And it can be perfectly fine.
Yeah. And some have 1, and that's fine too. We're happy. The cat's happy. But say you've got 5 of them, and they're not killing each other. Okay. So we don't have that serious problem. But they certainly aren't always going to, there's some that don't cuddle with each other, or they don't interact, right? But they all want to sleep with you. You had that very clever but very basic idea. Okay, they can't all be on your bed because there might be some hissing or fussing in the middle of the night. Make more beds. I was like, oh yeah, put a cat bed on the nightstand. Put a cat bed, like we have radiators because we have an old house. So if you put some cat beds on the radiator, wow, that's like heaven for a cat.
Oh yeah, they love it.
So like they could all interact peacefully because there's enough comfy places, but they're still near you.
Yes.
And like, for instance, we have a Siamese cat mix thing, Cleo, and she likes to sleep on my head sometimes, but the rest of the night she sleeps on this pillow right next to my husband, like this pillow's on a nightstand. So it's like her bed.
Oh, nice.
Likes
oh, perfect. Yeah.
Because she likes to move around. I don't know if she gets too warm or whatever. And then the other ones sleep at different places, and then the dogs are really jealous, but we're not even going to get into that. Because my dogs are really big.
A lot of the things that I post on social media are inspired by clients, right? And I recently had a client and, their cats are in that adjusting period where they're not hurting each other, but they're not friendly. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really, for a lot of people, especially if they have a cat who's used to sleeping on the bed with them and they adopt a new cat and the new cat kind of takes over the bed, people feel very guilty. They feel like the first cat is being displaced. And sometimes we can't really control that. It's like, well, the cats have worked out this arrangement. This cat is now sleeping on the bed, but you can increase the chances that they'll both be in the room with you and perhaps eventually get to both on the bed with you by just like, as I mentioned in the post, like add a cat tree near the bed. Mm-hmm. We have a storage chest at the foot of our bed. We call it the trundle because it increased the amount of space on it that's at bed level, right? So I personally am a light sleeper and I love it when our cats all sleep in the bed with us, but I also sometimes hate it because last night Coriander was weighing down the bed between my legs. It was like a bowling ball. I couldn't move all night, right? And I sometimes get restless leg syndrome, so I was like, oh, my legs really want to like move right now, but they're like pinned down by a cat and I love her, so I appreciate and love the closeness, so I didn't move her. I just didn't maybe get as much sleep as I would like to. But sometimes if you have 8 cats, you either have a very big bed or you don't have a lot of room to sleep if they're all in the bed with you. So sometimes just expanding the territory around the bed can help with that. Clever.
It was such a simple solution. It didn't require anything extra. It was such a simple solution. I thought like, oh, she's that's good. So what would you say would be the most
come up with solutions that are workable? Yeah, sorry. I try to come up with solutions that my clients can do, right? Because it's just if you give them things that are too hard or too many things to do, they get overwhelmed. And so sometimes luckily there's some really easy things you can do to make life better for you and your cats.
Yeah. Okay, then so I'm wondering, do some people say like, oh, my cat must be lonely, I'm going to get him another cat? What if, I love the fact if someone wants to get multiple cats because that's more homes for cats, right? So that's great.
Sure.
Do cats in general, I've always felt that, this is just a personal opinion, cats would rather have somebody to at least look at than be completely 100% alone. Now, whether that's another dog or something else, but like if you're going to leave your cat all day, to have something else something else living to interact with, hopefully someone that gets along with, do cat, because what's their nature? Do they want to be solitary? I know that my cats groom each other, hang out together, they're all really social with each other, but not everybody has that situation. How do you know? Does your cat tell you he's lonely or he's not lonely, or what do you find out?
It's a great question. And it's come up a lot, I think, certainly like during the pandemic and as people returned to work, I think people started having some guilt about leaving their cats home alone all day when they were returning to the office, even though, before COVID, a lot of cats somehow survived with people working out of the home, right? But it was like, once we started working from home, it's just like, oh, well, we can't possibly leave the cat home alone all day. Like that's not going to work. But cats are what we consider facultatively social, meaning their sociality is on a spectrum.
Sorry, say that word one more time, slower, so we...
Facultatively social. Sorry.
Okay.
So sociality for them is a spectrum, right? It's
okay.
It really is dependent on several things. It's dependent on the cat's early life experiences with other animals. It's dependent on, to an extent, domestication has allowed cats to be more flexible about being social. But it's also highly dependent on resources. So when we look at feral colonies of cats, which are naturally occurring, or, maybe it's unnaturally because a lot of them occur because of human behavior, but these are aggregations of cats that form kind of on their own. They typically are able to do so because there's a lot of food, whether it's human provided or prey. There's a lot of shelter. There is space for them to decide if they want to leave or not. So that is how cats naturally form groups, right? Is they kind of do it of their own volition. They choose
Okay, so
who they
cats
hang out with.
they're not necessarily wired to be solitary.
No, their
Okay.
closest related ancestors are a solitary animal, and cats are a solitary hunter, but they do have the flexibility, I guess is what I would say. They're flexible. The challenge is that in the home environment, we are choosing their social partners. We are providing either enough resources, not enough resources, abundant resources. We have control over how much territory those cats have. Do they get to go outside? Is our house 900 square feet or 3,000 square feet? So we're imposing a lot of limitations on them and often making poor choices about who we bring into the home as a companion for our cats, how we introduce them, and how we provide for them. And that causes a lot of strife. Actually, the most common reason I'm called for help is that someone has adopted a new cat, and that cat and the resident cat are currently fighting. That is a big issue for a lot of people. It causes a lot of stress for a cat and alike.
Yeah. Well, in my experience, when I want to get a new cat, I'll adopt 2 kittens together.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I have my adult cat, and the 2 kittens put their energy into each other instead of terrorizing or picking on or trying to interact too much with the adult cat. And then they love each other, the 2 kittens, but eventually the adult cat accepts them. Now, that adult cat's pretty accepting in general, but it was like the 2 kittens were young enough, so they weren't causing, any issues with being a full-grown adult cat. I can't bring in a full-grown adult cat, because everyone's spayed and neutered, of course, but say I brought an adult spayed or adult neutered cat, that would be a problem 99% of the time based on my group, right? But
in
if
your
I bring
home,
in my home, if I bring in 2 kittens, it's like, oh, dang, those kittens are so annoying. But there's 2 of them, so they're putting the energy into each other, not bothering that one cat by himself, and eventually they all kind of work. Now, I'm a unique situation because I've been doing this a long time, and I know that works for me. Not everyone can run out and adopt 2 kittens, but I think we should.
I 100% agree. I am not a fan of single kitten adoptions for various reasons. Certainly, if you have an older cat in the home and you get 1 kitten, that 1 kitten is at their kind of peak social period. So they're very interested in interacting with other cats at that time. And so you're really just setting them up for failure because they are probably going to pester that adult cat constantly to play, to cuddle.
Look at me.
Yeah, exactly. And depending on the age of the older cat, that can be problematic. I will say there's one of the problems we have is that there's been very little research on why cats in homes get along and what facilitates those relationships. It's just a topic that has not been studied. And so we really don't have a lot to go on. And so when we're talking about choosing a new cat, a lot of it is anecdotal, like, well, this makes sense. Like, get 2 kittens together. They can play with each other. They're very similar. If you have a 15-year-old cat, don't get a single kitten because they're just mismatched in energy and life stage.
Yeah.
But certainly there's always exceptions to the rule. And the one study that has been done looking at introducing a new cat into a household that already has cats suggests that about 60-70% of those introductions within a month will be fine. Like, those cats will accept each other. And then there's going to be a handful that are going to take longer. And then there's a smaller amount, probably closer to 10%, where you could have some problems where the cats actually do not get along, maybe are fighting or just causing other stress.
On that point, I just read a study or read about a study about how with dogs that, of course, it's really important to socialize puppies and all those things, that you need to do with a dog, right? Same with a kitten. But some dogs, through genetics and just, what are born with the temperament that is not going to handle handle change. So the whole point was, like, when you're looking for a puppy, look for a puppy that is adaptable and can handle noise and things and stuff happening around him, instead of a puppy that is like in the same litter, but he's going to be more worried about change. He's more neurotic in a sense. So are there, in general, there must be a range in cats, because I know that for animal actors, I can't work with a cat who's scared of the environment, or, no matter where he was born or how he was raised. Okay. So say he had optimum conditions in his litter. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in that litter, there's going to be the outgoing, bold ones that are self-confident. and they walk with their tail straight up, and they're curious about the world. And there's in the same litter, there could be one that goes, I don't want to interact so much. I'm going to be over here. No, that could be a fine house cat all by himself, someone's wonderful pet. For animal acting, this would not be happy. He would not be happy. No. But I have enough experience to see that. Do you think it's similar in cats that even with optimum raising, say it was foster cat, it was a foster cat in, part of a shelter, and the cat at someone's home, so they had the kittens, so they had like socialization and all the proper things done, nutrition, no fighting, blah blah blah. Some of those cats are going to be better suited being an only cat, and some of those other cats will be suited to be, and some are suited to be acting cats. So not that that's a big call, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in the impacts of early life experience on kittens through adulthood, and some of my research at UC Davis was looking at some of these issues. And to be clear, yes, every cat has a personality, right? They have individual differences and things that make them unique. And some of that is based on genetics. And there's some evidence that, for example, the trait boldness is inherited from the father. And within a litter, you can have kittens.
I didn't know that.
Each have
that
a
is interesting.
Dad. So
right.
So you, and it's very interesting because male cats do not provide any paternal care for their kittens under normal circumstances. So there's no influence of care. No. It really is their genes. And of course, kittens also have a socialization window that's very early and short. So their socialization window is considered 2 to 7 weeks. That's early. Most people do not get kittens before they're 7 weeks of age unless they're fostering. So it's a really important time where they can be exposed to, different, noises, people, other animals, etc. And they'll be more likely to cope with those things as adults. But that can't explain everything, right? Like socialization, genetics, there could be things that happen in the womb if the mother's stressed. When the kittens are in the womb, there could be an impact on their HPA axis, which moderates stress responses. So there's all kinds of possibilities. And so when people are adopting kittens, I think we can use different things to help mold them into our dream kitten, right? We can socialize them well. Maybe if you are purchasing a kitten from a responsible breeder, you might be able to meet the parents, right? And, there's some influence there. We can use training and positive reinforcement to further change behavior. We can provide them with a great environment to optimize the chances that they will, use a scratching post instead of scratching our furniture and those sorts of things. But I still think there's a certain amount that we can't control. And that is kind of the personality bit that we just don't have. We just don't know why. Certainly I've seen enough litters and interacted with enough cats to know that, you can do everything right. And you can still have a cat that's afraid when the doorbell rings. And you can have a kitten that maybe didn't get all of the socialization that you would have liked, and they end up being very bold anyway. But socialization is very important, and I would never downplay its importance. I think every kitten, needs good socialization to be a good companion. For most cat owners, I've had under-socialized cats in my past. I'd say the 3 I have now are actually a little bit on the under-socialized side because they grew up in a garden, and by the time they were rescued, they were already probably 3 months old, which is way past the socialization window. Right. There was a lady who was caring for them, so I know that they were exposed to people, but they probably didn't, they weren't exposed to like being in the home or anything like that.
Right.
I'm very comfortable with cats who are not bold. Like I like shy cats. I like that temperament.
Yeah, because you're early beginning there.
But certainly some people, if they had kids or a very loud, active household, that would not be a good fit for them. So I think it is, it helps to certainly to meet. And it sounds like you spend a lot of time thinking about who's the right kitten for my next star.
Oh, right, because I keep them. I keep them.
right. So,
and I want them to be happy because I could make a cat stay on set. I can shape it, but it may not be happy. So why would I do that? Yeah. It's like there's no point. Because A,
early
you wouldn't look happy, so then it's not a good result. And B, I don't think it's fair. I just don't want to treat animals like that. So if I had a kid, and I mean, you ask my own kids, I never put them into modeling. Because it's like, bad enough I have the cats and my dogs and other animals work. But no, because it's like you want them to have fun with it. And,
Yeah.
so, but anyway, but no, I think what you're saying about the cats raised in the garden can be true, because some of my boldest, well, all my cats are rescues, from a shelter, or my neighbor, or not a neighbor, but a neighboring farm. Okay. So
Sure.
those cats are totally raised outside, but also because they were raised outside, they were fed, taken care of. They're nice people, but they were very brave because they've been in the world their entire lives, so, but I do get them at about 7 weeks. So I see what you're saying there, that socialization. Well, this is a good segue to your book. Let's talk about your upcoming book, because that making a nice environment for your cats, play with your cat sounds really fun, and it's enjoyable. I know I enjoy throwing the mouse, because that Cleo retrieves, so we spend a lot of time when I'm watching TV throwing the mouse.
Very nice.
Let's also talk about laser pointers too, because I know cats enjoy them, but I've read, and I believe it, that it's very frustrating for cats to play with them. Is that right? Because there's no physical grabbing it, and that's just like anxiety causing, maybe? So let's talk about your book and maybe that too.
Okay. No, that sounds good. So my book, Play With Your Cat, comes out on March 5th this year, 2024, on Tartraperogy. And it really was inspired by, I think, working with so many clients who told me that their cats didn't play. And in many cases, it was because they were saying that because I was recommending play as part of their behavior modification plan, because I would recognize that their cat was either bored or frustrated or stressed. And to me, play is an obvious antidote to a lot of those psychological ills, for the same reasons that like exercise is beneficial to us in that it releases good endorphins and can take our mind off our troubles, but also because it is, for cats, especially indoor cats, an expression of predatory behavior. Their play is really the same as predatory behavior. It's motivated by the same things, like the shape and size of the toy and how hungry they are. And it is kind of fits into the animal welfare models, which really put emphasis on allowing animals to express natural behaviors. So for cats, play is allowing them to express predatory behaviors. So clients would be like, oh yeah, he doesn't play. Oh, he's 5, he doesn't play. As if somehow, if you're over 4 and you're a cat, you just stop, you lose all interest in life. So that was really, I just kept, so what would happen is if I was doing a home visit and people would be like, oh, my cat doesn't play, I'd be like, well, step aside, let me get a toy and let me show you. And then they would always be like, oh my God, like we've never seen him do this, because I would be able to get the cat to play, partly because I knew what I was doing. But also because they just hadn't tried in a really long time. So it was really like again and again seeing people be like, whoa, Fluffy likes to play. This is cool. And that tapping into that connection that I was able to create and following up with them later, like, oh yeah, he really loves playing. Like, thank you so much for, showing us that, he really does like to play. That I thought, okay, this is a topic that I'm passionate about. I ended up writing a scientific paper with my friend Julie Hecht about play. So we reviewed all the scientific literature that we could find about cat play and synthesized this into a scientific review paper. And so I already had the theoretical stuff kind of in the back of my mind. And then I had the applied part of working with clients and seeing the problems they had with play, the reasons that they didn't play, that I thought, okay, this could be a cool book. And so that's kind of how that idea was born.
Okay.
And now it's coming out soon. I mean, it's funny because I finished writing the book almost 1.5 years ago. So the whole publishing thing is just a very slow machine.
No, I have a book out too. It took a year, I think. So.
It takes a long time. So it's been for me, I'm like, oh my God, will this book just come out already? But now it's almost here. So it's I think it's 7 weeks from today, the date of this recording, that it will be on the shelf. So that's very exciting. And I really hope people have fun with it.
They will. It's going to be a great book. Where can they find? We'll have a link to your pre-order for now, but in general, because this podcast will live forever. So say the book's out, where will they find it?
Yeah, so it's on the Penguin Random House website, and it will hopefully be in lots of bookstores and libraries near you. You can always go to one of my websites, and I will have links to.
That's great. You got Penguin Random House, because oddly enough, my book was published through them, and they were great to work with as far as publicizing it and I mean, I'm sure this will lead to wonderful things for you because you've got a major, well, I think the biggest one, a major publisher. Very exciting. That's very cool. Besides, just sorry, book nerd thing, but that was really cool.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I just found out today it's going to come out in Dutch in the Netherlands, and it's going to come out in Italy. So it'll just be nice to kind of see how it goes. But the point of the book is it's like half science about why cats play, why animals play, what we know about cat health and play, and why, hunting behavior and how that ties into how your cat plays. And then the other half is really practical, like here's how to pick toys for your cat, and here's when you should play with your cat, and here's the, other supplies you might want to use, like cardboard boxes and paper bags.
Oh, right. Everyone knows that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And some things beyond that. And then it's like, what to do if you have multiple cats, or what if your cat has a disability? How can you modify the play to
cool.
accommodate?
I never thought of that.
Yeah. So I'm really trying to.
Can't wait to see that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's illustrated by Lily Chin. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she's at doggydrawings.net, and she's done a lot of amazing animal illustrations. She's a good friend of mine. So it's got really cute illustrations. So my goal is that it's a really fun book, but it also is informative, helps people have a better relationship with their cat, and hopefully gets a lot more cats playing. And in this case, I'm really focused on the interactive play, which is, human holding a stick with a, string and something on the end, and moving it in a way that really inspires their cat's predatory behavior.
Oh, yeah. We wouldn't get cat modeling. We couldn't get them to model if they weren't playful, for what I do, because I can't get the focus on the camera. Look at the camera unless they don't care about the camera.
Get them feather around. Yeah.
They're watching either the feather or the toy, depending on their age and stuff. Or they're to the level of shaped behavior that they're watching the bit of turkey that I'm holding that is going to be yummy. Nice. So it just kind of depends on where we are with their shaping. But totally, because it's got to be fun. Well, that's pretty exciting. Okay, well, then one of the other things I wanted to ask you about before we move on to kind of the closing section,
sure.
I wanted to ask you about what would be when people come to you with a problem about their cats, like what is the main question, the main thing, the main reason they've come to you over all the other reasons? I'm going to guess one, but I want you to say, what's causing people the most problem? And it's probably not causing the cat a problem at all. It's probably a lot of human stuff. I mean, if we fixed it for the cat, is what I'm trying to say. Cat's just being a cat. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure. I mean,
what would be the number one problem that people are faced with?
Yeah. So the number one reason people call for help is what I call intercat aggression, right? So aggression between cats in the home. Yep. Number two is litter box avoidance.
There's one. That's what I thought would be number one.
High up there.
But wouldn't litter box avoidance also be from not doing the resources properly? With multiple cats.
Yeah. So many of the issues are really about the environment. So whether it's the level of, or the number of resources we provide, do we provide enough litter boxes?
Right.
Do we provide enough scratching posts? Do we clean the litter box? Do the cats have things to keep them busy during the day so that they're not up all night or getting bored and frustrated and destructive? So there's so many kind of basic things that don't necessarily have to do with the problem itself, but it's just about providing the things that our cats need. And there's a model that I really like called the 5 Pillars of a Healthy Feline Environment that this organization called iCat Care and the American Association of Feline Practitioners collaborated on. And it really is about providing things like safe spaces for our cats and having multiple and separated resources for our cats, giving them outlets for predatory behavior, giving them appropriate social interactions, whether that's with humans or other animals. And also a big one that people don't think about is respecting their sense of smell, because they have a very sensitive olfactory sense. And they also use scent a lot for their everyday life, right? Like communicating and marking their territory. So really just getting people understanding why their cat does the thing that is bothering them. Sometimes it's sufficient to address the problem, right? Just changing how the person feels about the problem and giving them more empathy for their cat, giving them more of an understanding of what's natural for cats. And cats are not humans or dogs. So that is like a big part of what I'm doing, and then there's certainly other things that involve a lot of it is changing the human's behavior, but also we're doing behavior modification with the cats. So I do have a lot of my clients do training with their cats using positive reinforcement methods. So sometimes that's something functional, like training their cat to go in a carrier on their own so that they don't have to chase their cat around when they need to go to the vet. It could be training their cat.
They're trying to put him in the crate.
Yeah.
All that, a lot of stress. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It could be training their cat to sit on a mat instead of chasing the other cat in the home. So we're doing a lot of like relaxation exercises, a lot of that stuff that's derived probably from some of the horse and dog literature, I'm sure. We're using increasingly with cats. So it is, big picture, what's the problem? The problem is that they don't understand cats. That gets down to, okay, your cat's biting, your cat's not using litter box.
Let's just call the podcast that. We'll just, here's the big problem. They don't understand cats. Boy, that's nails it right there. Well, this has been really cool.
I did want to speak to the laser pointer question.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give a quick answer. We can edit this in so that it's earlier. But,
no problem.
Okay, cool. So you asked about laser pointers, and, laser pointers, I guess I'm not as rabidly against them as a lot of people are. Certainly in dogs, there's been a lot of documentation of compulsive behaviors that start up with laser pointers. With cats, I think they should not be the main tool in your toolbox for play. So you can use it sparingly as long as your cat doesn't seem to have any type of light obsession that, those behaviors that we see in dogs, like air snapping or kind of repeated looking for the light after it goes away. Yeah. And I'd say my approach is if you are going to use the laser pointer, treat it like you would, or treat it like it's a real physical object. So have it follow the laws of physics. Don't make it go halfway up the wall and then just disappear. Have it go under a doorway so it kind of disappears naturally, like prey would, like a mouse went under the door.
Okay.
And then I recommend following that with a real toy.
Exactly.
Or a treat for your cat. So there's kind of, you're completing the entire hunting cycle of,
exactly. That's kind of what I was trying to get to. Yeah. As opposed to just teasing the poor thing. Yeah.
I think people gravitate toward it because they don't have to get off the couch. And that's like a poor
amazing man cat toy.
Yeah. So it's not my favorite, but I'm not throwing it out of the toolbox. It's just at the bottom of the toolbox, and it's not my go-to for sure.
Okay, well, now the time, what we call this part of the podcast is called Treat Time and Questions. And so if you were here, I just dropped them all over my keyboard.
Oh, those look amazing.
If you were here, I'd have these cornmeal blueberry muffins, and we're going to snarf them down after we're done because my crew, I have to feed my crew. But it just kind of marks a treat time, kind of marks the part of the podcast where we ask you the 5 questions. Okay. Now, these 5 questions come from, I copied the idea from Warwick Schiller, who has a wonderful podcast about horses. And he copied this concept from Tim Ferriss's book, Tribe of Mentors. And so I sent you 20 questions, and out of them you picked 5, and we're going to ask those questions, okay?
Okay, hopefully I don't regret my choices.
Well, it's not a test. It's not a test, so it's okay. All right. First question. What is the most valuable thing that you've put your time into that has changed the course of your life?
Yeah, I would say the day I walked into that animal shelter to volunteer, it was very much about helping the community and helping the community animals, and it turned into a career path.
Yeah, but that sounds pretty remarkable. I believe that. Okay, what accomplishment are you most proud of, and why?
I mean, right now it'd be easy to say my book, but I think it was getting a PhD. I started grad school when I was 38, 39 years old. So I was very much, like I mentioned before, I dropped out of college, right? I didn't really say what happened later, but I went back to college in 2008 to finish my bachelor's degree and decided that I wanted to pursue research and a PhD. And it took 7 years. It was a lot of work. It was really fun. And it was very mind expanding and really just a very positive experience for me. I mean, academia is hard. There certainly were tears, there were problems, but overall it was just very mentally stimulating and a great learning experience. I definitely am very appreciative that I went through that time and that I worked with a mentor who was really supportive, Dr. Lucia Jacobs. And so I'd say I'm very proud of getting that PhD. It was a lot of work, but it was fun.
Oh, for sure. And then look at how we all benefit from you doing that, and then all the other stuff you did and how the cats are benefiting. So good on you. That was a good thing. Okay. Oh, I always like this one. What is the worst advice given in your profession, or the bad idea that you hear in your field of expertise?
I think the thing that it like ties back into the respect thing, right? It's really the idea that we should change behavior using aversive negative experiences. So in the cat world, what's been kind of decided is a not so bad behavior change technique is the spray bottle, right? Like every cat owner's got a spray bottle that they point at their cat when their cat's doing something they don't like. And it's, it's innocuous, right? The water is not going to like cause your cat to bleed or die.
No.
But
it doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't make sense.
No. And we're using I personally use spray bottles in my house to like clean things, and people use them to water plants. Why are we also using it to punish cats? So I think it really is getting back to like people don't understand behavior. They don't understand behavior change. And certainly changing behavior in humans is much harder than it is in animals. I would much rather train a cat than a human, hands down. But so for me, I think the bad advice that goes around is really around that, a little spray of water is going to fix this behavior problem. So
it just won't do it when you're there.
I think exactly. They'll either stop caring or they'll just do it as soon as you turn around. So I think it is really just trying to help people understand why those of us who rely on positive reinforcement methods for behavior change have landed on that philosophy, and how it's based in science and it's based in animal welfare science. So it's not necessarily just about behavior change, but it's about changing behavior in ways that are ethical and kind and effective.
And having empathy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. What inspires and motivates you to do what you do? What inspires and motivates you to do what you do? And what is your true purpose in the world?
I'm not really a spiritual person. And I guess I could consider myself a bit of I'm a very positive person, but I also go through periods where I think there isn't really there doesn't have to be a purpose in our life so much as we try to get through it. But
sounds very human.
On a good day, I think what gives my life purpose is helping cats be happy and helping cat owners have a better relationship with their cat so that their cats are happier. So it really is about trying to really help the cat-human bond survive and thrive.
Well, that sounds great to me. Sounds like a good thing. Okay, and then the last question of the question part is, what have you become better at saying no to?
I say no a lot more than I used to. I see fewer clients than I could. I say no to reviewing a lot of scientific papers. So when you're in academia, you get asked to, the peer review process is other scientists review scientific publications. You don't get paid for that work. And so I've just become a lot pickier about what papers I review. So a lot of it is kind of this busy work that kind of sneaks into your life. And I adopted the mindset of, if I say yes to this, what am I going to have to say no to? So it has
good.
So I do try to say no to things that don't excite me, that don't pay me. I mean, I do some free things, but I say yes to less of them. So it is really about and the other thing is just for example, a couple of years ago I decided I was going to stop working on weekends. I used to see clients on the weekend, and I just was like, I need 2 days off, to just not work and not think about work, and I just want to read a novel and watch TV and go for a walk and bake cookies and hang out with my cats. And that used to be very hard for me. I used to be definitely my idea of a vacation is to stay at home and like catch up on all the like, busy work and tax stuff and
Same.
things
Yeah.
that,
No, same. Yep. You're self-employed. There's not ever a vacation. Yep.
There really isn't. So I've really worked hard to try to take more time off, and that means saying no sometimes and limiting what I can do. But I do feel like I do better. Like I'm bringing a better me to the clients that I do see and the work that I do take on.
Yeah, no, healthy boundaries are good. And we are extremely grateful that you said yes to this, because this has been really wonderful, speaking with you today. I think I'm somewhat knowledgeable about cats, right? But I know that just in this short time, I've learned some things, like how the father's temperament can be passed on, or it's important, genetically from the father. I'm going to look into that. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because my cats are all strays. I never know the father.
Yeah. I mean, most of us don't, right? I mean, it's just,
yeah, that's so interesting. Among other great stuff that you shared with us today. This has been super cool. I feel like we don't have enough time. I wish we had more time, because I'd love to do this again after your book comes out. We'll give it some time, but there's more stuff that I'm sure people want to know about, what kind of litter box is best, Sure. But also more about your life and how your cats, I wish I had time to ask you how you found each individual cat, like their individual story, and all that kind of stuff. But good on you, and how exciting about the book. We will make sure to link everything up. I'm going to give you a few minutes here to tell us how we find you. Now, we'll have all this stuff listed in the show notes, but if somebody wants to hire you to talk to you about their cat, where do they go? How do we find you?
Okay. Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been really great talking to you. It's been a really lovely conversation. So I appreciate that. If people are interested in finding me, probably the easiest way is to go to mikeldelgado.com. And from there, you can get to my business consulting website, which is felineminds.com, and my blog, which is whatyourcatwants.com. I have too many websites. That's probably something I should have cut back on, but I didn't. So that I'm on the internet. I'm on the gram.
You're on Instagram. You post a lot. I mean, that's where I found you, and there's always something useful. Like you must do that. You're really good at it, because you've got this great information all the time. I'm always learning when I'm on your Instagram account. So besides the other places, so that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mikel. This has been a delight. I just want to go pet my cats. I don't know what it is, but
I hope everyone else is feeling the same way. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay.